Good morning, everybody, and welcome back to another tropical update here by Adrian Weather Forecast. We have now a major update on now confirmed Tropical Storm Arthur. We have now our first named system of the Atlantic hurricane season. So basically, the Atlantic hurricane season basically started earlier this year. So we have major updates on Tropical Storm Arthur now. We have huge updates on the track. We have, of course, a lot of updates on the potential for the strength of the system. Also have major updates on the radar. It's very unlikely now to see a landfall, but we can't rule out the possibility because it's actually not far off the coast. It's not going to be far off the coast from the Outer Banks. So we're going to have major updates on this. If you're on the mid-Atlantic coast, including North Carolina, Virginia, you guys are definitely going to get hit really hard by this rain and the winds, but it doesn't seem like we're going to be seeing a huge landfall like we thought yesterday. But if you're new to the channel, be sure to hit the subscribe button. Also, be sure to share the channel to any friends or family. We are one subscriber away from 2,310 subscribers, so please hit the subscribe button. And without further ado, let's get this tropical update. So here we are looking at the National Weather Service here. Oh, sorry, not the National Weather Service, the National Hurricane Center. And here we have the Tropical Storm Arthur right here off the coast of Georgia and South Carolina. So it is obviously not too far off from the United States here, just moving along the East Coast. Here we have maximum sustained winds at 40 miles per hour. So we have reached these. We have reached tropical storm force winds, and we have now our minimal central pressure is at 1,002 millibars. So it is continuing to strengthen. Just yesterday, earlier, it was at 1,009. So it is continuing to strengthen here, and it is now moving at 9 miles per hour to the northeast. So here we are looking at the wind speed probability to see tropical storm force winds, and is now a 90 to a 100% chance. And here it is right here. This is where this white circle to where the eye of the system is. So you see this is a one-sided system with the strongest winds are to the west of this, and I explained that multiple times why it was one-sided before it actually was a system. And as you see, parts of the Outer Banks now are seeing a 50 to a 60% chance for tropical storm force winds, and parts of the inland areas like North Carolina inland could be seeing a 30 to a 40% chance. So very likely to see tropical storm force winds in this area right here. Very, very likely. We now have a huge update where it is at a 90 to a 100% chance for tropical storm force winds. So very likely there. And the 50 knot wind probability to see more than 50 knots, which is 58 miles per hour. It is only a 20 to a 30% chance. So that's what we're looking at there. And then if we look at the arrival time, this is, of course, where it is right now, this Tropical Storm Arthur. It'll be a big threat between Sunday at 8 p.m. to Monday 2 a.m. for any landfall. Of course, that'll be for the Outer Banks right here. And the Outer Banks is still in the cone. So there is still a probability that the center of that system can go over there. As we now look into the satellite imagery, this is way more organized than yesterday. Here we have a low pressure system where we have the less clouds and see the most amount of rotation. So you see all of this vorticity, and look, this is exactly why it's one-sided. Here we have the strongest winds are right here, where it is tropical storm force winds is exactly why it's a tropical storm. When they sent the flight team, I believe from Savannah, that's exactly where they found this tropical storm force winds. And look, it's exactly where we have that 100% chance for tropical storm force winds to the west of that low pressure system. And look, there it is. So very organized, or it's not extremely organized because it is one-sided, but I can tell that the outer bands are not too far from Florida coast at all. Look at this, not even too far. So here we have these outer bands, a lot of vorticity, which is cyclonic rotation. You can see all this rotation, the cloud cover. They are circular. They are going a circular rotation around this low pressure system. So very organized though. That's going to continue to move at 9 miles per hour to the northeast. So heading toward the way of the Carolinas. So definitely something we need to watch out for as it gets closer and closer to the Outer Banks. So the cone is still actually not including parts of inland. The inland North Carolina areas, not just the Outer Banks. And we have a huge update now. We have now tropical storm warnings, not tropical storm watches. So very likely now we're definitely be seeing a big possibility and a very high probability to see tropical storm force winds in the Outer Banks. So as you see, really where most models agree, it seems like the eye will go just to the east of the Outer Banks, like within 20 miles of the Outer Banks. So this is where it's going to definitely be seeing the outer bands affect these areas, which is not good. This is exactly why we have tropical storm warnings here in the blue for much of the North Carolina coast as the system does get closer and closer to the coast. And here we have these tropical storm current winds, of course, to the west of that low pressure system. It's going to continue to move by around 2 p.m. Mondays when it's probably the biggest threat here. And then it does move closer off the coast, so it doesn't seem like it's going to be going up the coast like the GFS model. But of course, things still change. We still have more than 24 hours for the system to actually get passed by where we actually could be seeing possibly seeing landfall. Speaking of landfall, we're going to check out the tracks. As you see, these models are just to the east of the Outer Banks, and actually multiple models are still showing it instead of going to the east, going to the west and making landfall once again, or possibly making landfall for the first time if it does not make a landfall in North Carolina. But it seems like multiple Mars are showing it possibly hitting the mid-Atlantic. I don't think that's really going to happen anymore. It seems like it is actually, most models are showing, indicating going to the east here. But as you see, this comes really very close to the mainland North Carolina, and the Outer Banks still has spaghetti models going over it, so we still can't rule out the possibility for seeing it's either going to be a landfall or a very close call to a landfall, like within miles of landfall or within miles of direct landfall. We'll definitely be seeing the Outer Banks, and definitely be seeing possibly the eye wall go over the Outer Banks, but don't think we're going to be seeing the eye like going straight over. But we still can't rule out the possibility because it's such a close call that it could definitely happen. So here we have the spaghetti balls for the intensity guidance. So here we have it at, of course, at 40 miles per hour or 35 knots. It's going to continue to strengthen from now on, and then by the next 48 hours to maybe 54 hours, it will be at its maximum sustained wind, so around maybe 55 knots. But then it's going to fall apart. Some models indicated actually taking a while to actually weaken, like the CEM2 or the UK model here. It is showing it taking a while to actually fall apart, but the other models just say it's kind of just falling apart extremely fast and weakening. So it seems like the peak of its sustained winds will be in between the 48 to 60 hours. So we have a lot of time for this actually to see a huge update. So it's not like super close, but it is still less than 3 days from actually being its worst. Definitely gonna be a generally moderate to maybe high-end tropical storm. So it definitely has a lot more to actually strengthen. So let's go ahead and get to the current system here. Here it is, right here, this tropical system off the coast of Georgia. It's going to be bringing these outer bands within the next 24 hours, really, within the next maybe 12 hours, maybe. And here it is, it's strengthened so much. Look at 998 millibars. This thing just strengthens a lot before potential landfall. GFS is still showing it making a landfall over the Outer Banks in mainland North Carolina. Look, it is still showing that landfall and bringing extremely heavy downpours throughout parts of the mid-Atlantic. And here it is now finally actually not going to hit the New England area like it showed yesterday, but it's going to go to the east like the spaghetti models. As we now take a look at the CMC model, this is also showing getting very close to the landfall, but GFS is showing a landfall, and CMC is just to the east of the Outer Banks there. As you see, we are going to be seeing those really strong bands and those outer bands there, and possibly eye wall will be not too far off, but definitely be seeing a ton of rain no matter what. And then it does kind of course, move to the east. So that's what we're looking at there. And then last thing we'll be looking at is actually the wind speeds here and the 10-meter wind. So this is basically the winds we're seeing right now on the surface. So this is what the like I said, the strongest winds are to the west of the low pressure system. So here, or sorry, to the east of the low pressure system. That's my, I don't mean to say that. To the east of the low pressure system. So here it is right here. Let me actually do this again. Low pressure system right here. And the strongest winds are right here to the west. Because that's where we have all that moisture and less wind shear. So we'll be seeing the strongest system there. Around 28 to 30 knots, of course. Around 35 knots. And then as we now get right before potential landfall, because not all models are showing it, we'll be getting up to 40 plus knots as it does go over North Carolina. Based on the GFS, could be seeing 48 plus knots at 993 millibars, and then it just kind of fall apart, of course, but definitely we could be seeing up to 52 knots as our peak. And as you can tell, that's within that the time range of seeing our peak at 66 hours, which is basically right here, around 66 hours, we'll be seeing our peak based on this. But I hope you guys enjoyed the video. Please don't forget to like and subscribe, and bye guys.